Hey, Costa.
Mambo.
I have to call. This food is fire.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, very delicious.
Asante sana.
I didn't know. I knew to be something good, but I didn't expect it to be this good. Very nice. Nice, Makita.
You're listening to The Parallel Paths, a podcast designed to elevate your mind, body, and spirit so that you can get everything you want out of life. The only question is, are you ready?
All right, people, welcome back to the Parallel Paths podcast. Today, we're continuing our chakra journey, moving from the very earthy experiences of the first four chakras into the more light ethers of the upper chakras. And the gateway between those is none other than the throat chakra. So we left off with the heart chakra, which was the element of air. I like to say the upper chakras don't necessarily have element, they're just ether. But if I had to associate one, I'll probably say wind would be the element. Typically, the upper chakras have to do with the mind. We're going with words, images, and thoughts. So think of that like the throat chakra, the third eye, the crown. And so basically what we have going on in the upper chakras is going to be a symbolic representation of what we're able to manifest with the lower chakras. And so the Sanskrit term for the throat chakras is Vishuddha. I think is how you say it. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Vishuddha. But the Sanskrit term means purification. So I think that says a lot, because with the throat chakra being the gateway to the upper chakras or the more refined chakras, then we know that through our speech and through our communication, we have to basically detox, get rid of the toxins that we spew with our language. And purify ourselves, make sure that we are authentically living our truths before we can elevate and graduate onto the upper chakras.
Yes, that is the ultimate goal, to live in truth. Yeah, total truth. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to live.
It is.
Yeah. I was going to say, people don't really understand how the throat chakra can really be vital to just expressing your true self. It literally is the voice of your entire being. Not only that, but since we are beings who want to manifest and we want to create, everything that we say, it just holds that much more of an importance. And it's funny because even like small words that we remember as kids, like abracadabra or something like that, where we'll say that as a magic term, but it's an actual official saying, because in Hebrew, abra means I will create, and cadabra means as was spoken. So it's just
we was really casting spells as kids, not even realizing.
Right. As I speak, I create.
Yeah.
100%. So that goes to show sound is very much an expression of the throat chakra too, because the first four chakras are a lot more internal, but then we hit this gateway where now we're making sound, which means that vibration and frequency also plays a bigger piece. And on a larger scale, I would even say resonance, because I feel like and it's crazy how it connects with the sacral chakra too, because with the sacral chakra, we usually will associate that chakra with creativity versus the expression and the creative way of the throat chakra. But I would say the difference really is that with the sacral chakra, it's more of an unconscious creativity, because it's like, for example, you make a baby, you're not really telling your body what to do. It's unconsciously doing what it does. Whereas with the throat chakra, it's more of a willed expression of creativity, where it's way more intentional. So then you definitely got to have that will, your solar plexus good, so that you can be able to have the confidence and the courage to even be able to express your individuality. Without that individuality, you can't even really express truthfully and authentically through your throat chakra. And so I think with resonance, or with the throat chakra with resonance, is where we're basically like understanding ourselves enough so that when we go out with other people, we can see what is vibrating at the same level that we're vibrating at. So like, let's take singing, for example. If you're singing with somebody, it's so much easier to be in harmony than like for you to sing one note and them to sing another note. Like you find yourself like turning into their note, or their note is like turning into yours. So it's like, it's so much easier to be on the same frequency or vibration with something. And I think doing that, the throat chakra helps us to do that through sound and vibration.
So one of my favorite music artists, Londrell, we were at a concert and we asked him, what is yeah, he's a real one. Like, he's real, and just his music is just everything your soul needs to hear, like all the messages. But anyway,
exactly.
We asked him like, what is a practice that he and his wife do together to maintain that sense of connection? And he said, not just meditate together, he said chant together. So actually doing that, using that sound, like connecting through that sound, and how much more powerful that is. I'm like, we did a little bit, but I definitely feel like it just naturally will put you in that state of resonance. Like it's very, very intentional. Yeah. But there was one thing that came to mind when you spoke about the throat being more intentional, the sacral being less intentional. That made me think about the conscious and the subconscious mind, with those lower three chakras representing the subconscious mind, those behaviors that are driven off of like fear, and driven off of core beliefs, things that you're not really conscious are happening, versus the subconscious mind starting at the throat. You're very, the conscious mind. The conscious mind is aware of what it's doing. Everything that it's doing it with intention. And it's being driven by the subconscious. Yeah. So that made that very clear about the order of the chakras and why it matters.
Gosh, exactly. It's crazy how that connects like that.
So I was gonna say, one thing that we've talked about in every episode is the balance. So as much as it's important for us to speak up and voice our opinions and our authentic selves, it's also just as important to listen. So how do y'all think the listening factor plays into the health of the throat chakra?
Huge. Because quite frankly, communication is another one of those essential key terms associated with this chakra. And we don't just communicate with our voice. Like your claircognizance and all the clairs, I think, have a lot to do with the throat chakra too. And so it's like, if you have a blocked throat chakra, then your ability to listen on a spiritual level is going to be impacted. Like, how are you hearing your ancestors or your spirit guides or anything if you're talking all the time, or you're overactive with your expression and you're not sitting to listen? That's a part of what the big benefits of meditation allows you, is to sit and observe so that you can become keen to changes in your frequency, changes, somebody can walk up behind you, they're there, you can feel it. So I think if we ain't listening, that's bad.
I was gonna say that because I felt like I actually got more in tune with my spirit just by listening. And not only that, but just figuring out that I can feel what you're saying, people's auras, or I can feel presences around me. One thing that popped into my head when you said that was when I transitioned from what I deem as a prayer and then what I deem as meditation. Because if I'm coming in from like a particular religious dogma where, you have to kneel on this bench, be at this pew, drink this before you pray, light the candle, whatever it is you got to do to kind of set the, be in the temple, whatever you got to do to kind of have that regime before I pray. And then within your prayer, you're requesting, talking to that higher being of what you want, like their Santa Claus. And then when someone basically told me the difference between prayer and meditation is prayer is you talking to this higher being versus meditation is you taking in that universe and listening to what they have to say. And being in stillness is probably the most powerful thing that we can do, especially when it comes to a spiritual recharge. So yeah.
And given how powerful that ability is, this is why there's so many distractions in this world. We're not allowed to be in stillness. Our bodies are disturbed, our ears are disturbed.
Man, the war of alignment.
The frequencies from the devices, like nothing is still.
Yeah.
You know, and there was one
noise pollution.
What'd you say?
I said noise pollution.
Oh yeah. And then when it does get quiet, people are so uncomfortable now with stillness. So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Man, they took our throat chakra as soon as they got social media on deck. I mean,
yeah, like we're definitely lacking.
I mean, because I feel like this is all within the plan to just make us more docile. So in a sense, they have to, again, we already addressed this in previous episodes, but there is a war within our chakra alignments. And I don't know if they're starting from down up or from the top to the bottom, but they're attacking all of them.
Yeah.
And so within this aspect, when you're talking about social media, you're already coming in with social economics are basically flipped on its head. Like I remember I had to go down the street if I wanted to talk to my friend. Or I remember that I had to set up actual dates or times to be like, yo, let's just go down here, take a walk, whatever the case may be. Even when phones came out, phones is just like, dang, I only got 5 minutes on my card, so I can't really, you know what I mean? And then that's when they came with texting, and texting was something that literally subconsciously told us, like, I don't have to use my voice. And so now we practice for so long not using our voice that it became like a secondary means to communicate with someone. And once we use our voice, we don't know how. We're either talking too loud, we're either talking in text lingo, you know, like all this other stuff. Like I remember when people was really trying to make like BRB stick. I'm like, I'm never saying that in my life. You know? Yeah, like, oh, well, you know what I mean? But anyways, within that, the whole process of, you know, making us docile within that, it rose an era of people who have social awkwardness and anxiety to the point where they can't even identify if it's anxiety within, it's because of my own quirkiness or my whatever it is, or through these socio-economical norms that are placed. This is how you're supposed to act within this space. And you're not acting like that. So you must be someone completely different, you know, and that's what started breeding so many people basically going into their heads like, dang, maybe I'm not like this. I'm not like this, or I'm not whatever. We're talking to ourselves within that. Now we don't even want to use our throat chakra.
Media was a tool to bring disbalance to every chakra.
Yeah.
Like they knew what media was, they knew what programming was. It just was like, let me
100%.
And I was just gonna say, like how we talk about the throat and the ear connection. That's why it's definitely important to pay attention to what you're listening to. Just even that regular music being broadcasted at 440 hertz. The average person doesn't know that distorts your frequency, your being. It should be broadcasted at 432, which is at the Earth's natural healing tone. So even just knowing that, like if you're listening to stuff on YouTube, or if you want to listen to a binaural beat or a certain healing tone, listen to different things. And Makita and Jerica both hit on it, but the frequency, even if it's a mantra that you're repeating during the meditation, but really dictating and being clear on what's going on in your mind. And even with the voices that you hear, I know there's a couple of different meditation practices where you sit in silence and let's say you're trying to manifest something and you're in the end, and like, let's say you're having a conversation with somebody that's close to you and they're telling you congratulations, but like hearing that person is just as real as them being there and actually saying it. So it's just like if you're mentally saying something in a meditation or in that silence, it's the same type of power that's being pushed forward in a sense.
It's because I feel like in that state, you're speaking directly to your subconscious, right? That's the part that's open for programming, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question to everyone. Basically, what do you feel like was the main key on making sure that you're exercising your throat chakra? And also, what were times in your life where you felt like you needed to consciously work on your throat chakra?
Well, I think
like were you already advanced in the throat chakra? The thing was already activated, or was it kind of like, okay, I have to grow into this part of me and I had to learn how to, like, who taught you even how to communicate?
I think before my Saturn return, I really struggled with my throat chakra. But after my Saturn return, I feel like it got a lot better. And that's what made me realize that all of the other chakras, I think out of all of the chakras, the throat chakra is the most impacted by the other six, beside itself. And I say that because it's like if our root chakra is off, then our voice is going to be impacted. And that's what we're using to communicate. So it's like if our body's constricted, our voice is going to be constricted for our root chakra. If we're not utilizing or operating in a healthy sacral chakra, then there's no feeling in our voice and we sound robotic or mechanical. And then if our solar plexus is off, we have no ego and courage and strength and power behind our voice and what we're saying. So it's probably going to come off a little bit shaky or a little bit whimpery or whining. And then by the time we get to the heart chakra, if we haven't done the self-love and self-acceptance, then we're going to have a fear to speak our truth. So it's like, and then as far as the upper chakras, if your crown or your third eye chakra is closed, you don't have vision and you don't have wisdom and insight, then you're not where are you drawing your inspiration, to even be able to get it out? So it's like the throat chakra is literally like, think of what we look like if we didn't have a neck. It literally connects your mind and your body together. And so I think that those lower chakras being so much more impacted on an unconscious level, all of the time before my Saturn return, unconscious impacts were happening. Versus after my Saturn return, I began to come aware of what they are. And so then going forward, I could.
What's a Saturn return?
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's an astrology term. So your Saturn return is, so it's the cycle of Saturn when it goes back to the place that it was at your time of birth. So if you're looking at your natal chart, you're going to look at whatever sign and whatever house Saturn is in. So for me, I was born with Saturn in Capricorn. And Saturn typically has like a 29 to 29 and a half years cycle to go through all 12 signs. So when you have your Saturn return, it's where Saturn has gone through all the other signs in your chart and made its way back to where it was at the time you were born. So for us, that's like the universe's way of telling us that we've matured, between the ages of 28 and 30. So like before your Saturn return, you're still considered a young person in the eyes from a universal standpoint. But then after your Saturn return, there's this maturity that hits, And so I felt like after my Saturn return, you just kind of hit this, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm going to do what's best for me. There's this re-evaluation that takes place. That's like, what have I been doing with my life? Am I even happy with where I am? There's all of that. And so when we talk about the throat chakra lining up with truth, that's where it is. Like we go back to frequency, right? Like, hopefully some of our viewers know what a sine wave is. If not, you can Google it. It's SINE. So we consider a sine wave, right? We know that from one crest to another crest, or one trough to one trough, that's a wavelength, right? And then the repetitiveness of that wavelength is what we call the frequency. So the faster the frequency, it begins to be so fast. Like, think about a ceiling fan. The faster it goes, it doesn't look like it's spinning anymore. It's just, it seems to have stabilized in some kind of way. So like when you have sound that's going and the frequency is really fast, it's so fast that it just looks like a straight line. Well, that straight line is truth, and it's your truth. So when you are in a line, straight line, you are in alignment, then you are vibrating so fast with your truth. It's straight. You've matched truth. Truth is always here, but are you vibrating high, low? How fast is it going? So the faster you go, now I'm starting to look like I'm in alignment with my truth. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I feel like happens when our throat chakra is in the right place.
And I think, when they talk about the midlife crisis, I think it's when you get to that point, you have that awareness, but then you don't pursue it. And then it's 5 years later, it's like, fuck, like, yeah.
Yep. And now your sacral chakra is impacted too, because both of your places of expression, both mentally and physically, are blocked. And so if the throat chakra is blocked, then the things that's coming from your, I'm sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, I had a call come in. So the messages that are coming through from the ethers are not getting to your lower body, but then the messages from your lower body isn't getting to the brain. So it's like this thing we call the neck is literally like this passageway to make sure that we can make those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Your spine in general.
Right.
The whole information superhighway. So yeah.
Remember there's like this African tribe and they do the rings on their neck. I wonder if if there's any relation between, like, is that a metaphysical thing when they do that?
That's a good question.
I have to look into that.
But then again, everything here is just another interpretation of just the Kemetic science that we already know that's here in the first place. Mm-hmm. So when we are seeing these devices on the neck, or devices in the ears, or devices even just within like the lip, like all of those are representations of, whether it's representations to be like a pole for your vibration, mm-hmm. or even if it's just to bring awareness within this particular chakra point. So,
and I even think about what, like in America, a business person, the first thing you think about, or a businessman, the first thing you think about when you imagine a businessman is a man in a button-up shirt and a tie around the neck. So in what way, I'm thinking like, what way is that tie making men more docile to work for someone else, to not express?
That's the whole point of a job orientation.
Tying it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of a job orientation. We all been through job orientations before. Yeah.
Like lynching to quiet the people.
Oh my God.
Well, it's a leash in general, because again, these Eurocentric tendencies where they like to, have command and dominion over certain things. But, that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. But what I was saying within, like, if you're going to a job orientation, the whole point is to reprogram you. And even if it's on a minute scale, or even if it's just like on a bigger spectrum, when you go there, they tell you exactly what to say, how to say it, how you dress. Basically, they want you to put on the slave suit so that way it's easier for you to be acclimated with doing their wills. And that's why.
Oh my gosh. And think about it, like back in the day when dressing up like that was more of a thing, people were so like robotic and so like loyal to these jobs. But as we've changed up the attire and we're a lot more comfortable in going to work, boy, people quitting, they opening up their own businesses. Like
2020.
Yeah.
2020 was probably hands down one of my best years of my life. Because
I agree with that.
Not only that, because it was literally like the world was forced to sit still. And within people sitting still, people really did have a lot of time to just look around, look around you. Dang, I have so much time on my hands. What do I do with this time? Dang.
Because we came off the hamster's wheel for a minute.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So when people had a taste of peace for the first time in their life, they like, nah, y'all can extend this into June. You can extend this into October. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially our
generation.
generation.
For 2021, like, come on, 2021, like,
weekend.
you know.
Right.
But I mean,
I agree,
ultimately,
Blair. Definitely our generation.
Yeah, our generation not playing them games no more. We like, nah, bro. It's been off since the beginning, and then now you gonna give us some time to think about it.
Right.
2020 was different for me. Like it was a regular year because I had taken this leap a couple years early, so I was primed and ready. So it really wasn't no difference in mine, but I could see how it was affecting everybody else. And like what we said, even with the throat chakra, like people start speaking up, like, why can't we work from home, and asking more questions? And I definitely think, and I always highly recommend, even the stuff that we're saying, question everything, do your own research. And that's a part of a healthy throat chakra, in my opinion, but like asking the right questions and on a deeper level, just educating yourselves about different things and being able to speak up about it when it's an opportunity to speak on the truth.
I was also going to add, have a sense of spiritual integrity too, and mindfulness on what you're actually saying. Because I feel like we got a little too loose-lipped on how many things kind of just come out of our mouths without having a complete accountability or at least understanding of what we're saying. Even when it's like the smallest things, like I'm grinding, you know, like you're trying to just show or portray that you're extensively working yourself and you're trying to hustle, but grinding, even the word grinding means to barrel down, and you don't want to deteriorate yourself. Yeah, so it's just things like that.
I'm sorry, like
all of those.
I don't say that. Like, my bad.
It's
so many words I've eliminated.
Sometimes I just put my hand on my chest, like, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? Because you just understand the connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for us, it's really just being in a place where we're speaking in a place that hasn't been, for a sense, spiritually colonized. We're trying.
So look, I was going to say that kind of brings me to what I wanted to bring up, but they say in the beginning, it was the word. So prior to that, it's a lot of beings that were just in silence and, you know, using telekinesis or whatever to communicate outside of actually using their voice. From a lot of different teachers, I want to say Dr. Phil Valentine spoke about it. And I think Dr. Blair spoke on it. Dr. Delbert Blair spoke on it. But they just talked about, like, prior to the colonization, using different sounds or different symbols to communicate as opposed to actually using their voice. So what do y'all think about that?
Like the clicks.
Clicks, all types of stuff. Yeah.
Did y'all see, there was a video of a young Black boy who was blind and deaf. No, he was blind. Yeah, he was blind. But he was riding his bike down the street by clicking. And then sensing the vibration he felt off of everything around him. Like, that's the ability we have. Like,
yeah, we have.
Well, I mean, you think about somebody who's blind and like they use the guide stick. Like, they're using the sound to help guide them. So that makes sense.
I think it's I think it's a cool way for all of us to have different mediums to create, because it's like you can use it using your voice. You still have the vibrations if you want to use your voice, or you can write, or you can make sound. But like you said, Blair, in the beginning was the word, and we talk about like Om being like that sound that began the creation to begin with. Then we know there has to be the vibration that we can hear. I feel like must have to be included in some kind of a way, because we do, like, you can do the symbols, you can do writing and things like that, but there's something about the vibration that we do get when we hear sound. So it's like, but I do think, like, as far as, but I think it, you know, our maturity level and where our headspace is tells a lot about the things that do come out of our mouth. And if we have been doing the chakra journey in order, then that heart chakra work should support you saying things that are going to be edifying and uplifting for people, versus things that's going to come from a place of hate, and it's not helping anybody to grow. So like the whole Kevin Samuels thing, let me just bring him up real quick. He was off. And I'm just like, and people will say, no, he was controversial. And yeah, I get that, but I think in the context that our current culture and society is using the word controversial, I disagree. It's toxic. You know, controversial, I feel like, is trying to nicely package it like it's just the individual authentic expression of who he was. When really, no, you're talking from a place of your wounds and things that are unhealed. And the sad part is that the people that are hearing those messages that are also wounded are latching on to what you're saying, and it's really making them worse, not better. So I think that with our speech and the things that we're saying, we have to make sure, we have to question ourselves and ask ourselves where it's coming from, so that we can make sure that when we are authentically expressing who we are, if it's authentic and it's aligned with truth, and you've done the work of the other chakras, then your expression shouldn't cause harm to somebody else. If you're expressing yourself, but somebody else is getting hurt by it, you have to look at that. You got to question that, because if you've done the heart chakra work, that should not be by the time you open your mouth.
Yeah, it's just some things are better unsaid. Like, I don't think everything deserves an opinion or a statement, or every time something happens, I don't think people need to be running to Twitter or to make an Instagram post. For one, nobody cares. Like, it's just exercising the chakra and wasting words and energy that you really could be preserving. So
that's the addiction to the algorithm.
Yeah. And one thing that we talk about all the time, like, this is a time of self-preservation. Like, you should be conserving energy and trying to raise that vibration, like Jerica said, on every level. So if you're not positively contributing to something, just withhold that negative energy, try and transmute that. But especially in this time, like, we're not in this for no debates, no arguments. Like, if that's what it comes down to, next conversation. Like, nobody has time for that petty stuff and little stuff now.
Well, I was also going to say, people are infatuated with the idea of hurting people, because for one, we feel like, well, we can identify with that hurt. So I'm going to watch.
People like to see hurt.
Yeah, people like to see hurt. So I remember when, what's the most toxic show that came out like in the early 90s? Like Maury, or like Maury.
Jerry Springer.
Oh, we should put out what's the most toxic?
Jerry Springer or something like that, you know, and it was to the point where it was like, they didn't even care about the storyline no more. Just ring the bell.
Right.
Ring the bell and let's fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like
Bad Girls Club after.
Yeah. And then so people got infatuated with chaos. and
Yeah.
to the point where they're just like, you know, you don't even know what's led to this. You don't know no one's background story. You just came here for the drama. And then when, you know, other shows came off air and they just put like a myriad of just reality TV shows, it was just showing conflict after disconnect after just like all within all of this traumatic.
With the music on top.
Yeah, with the music on top.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's literally things that we have to look at ourselves as well, and just saying, well, do I have an addiction with chaotic behavior, whether it's from myself doing it or whether it's receiving it. I don't ever want to open up my phone, go through Instagram and see the things that I see. But it's like, for me, I feel a type of way sometimes, because when we see on the Instagram feed, you know, such and such was just shot 4 or 5 times by, you know, a police officer, or such and such got kidnapped, or missing child posters, it gets to the point where it's just like, it's repetitive every single day, to the point where I'm just like, man, like, what are they really trying to say? Because on one aspect, yes, you want a cause of action, or you want to at least take action, what I meant to say, and do something to change that perspective. But at the same time, it's like, you turn on your TV, they'll tell you 3 murders before they tell you what the news is like, or what the weather is like. You know?
And what happens is, when you go to, like, let's say you're working a corporate job, when you're around people, what are they talking about? All the negative stuff. So people wake up, they watch the negativity, they get programmed by, and then that's all they want to talk about. Like, at my last job, it literally was like, I did so much work, and then I felt myself transforming. I couldn't even help it. I couldn't, with all the meditation, I just felt the negativity seeping in, and I started to notice, like, dang, kid, you're having negative thoughts again. And it was just because I was so used to having negativity all day at work. I'm just like, and I couldn't do nothing about it. Put a little hood around.
It's interesting you bring that up too, because I've read that when we sleep, like, it's actually our body's way of getting back in tune with our personal resonance. So it's like, you know, when you've been up and you've been at work and you've been at all these other places where other people's auric fields are mingling in with yours, and you're not vibrating on the same frequency, then you find yourself tired, and that's where you rest. And when you rest, your heart begins to get rhythmic, and, you know, everything kind of gets back into equilibrium. And that's why through our ears, our alarm clocks, there's something that jolts us out of our sleep. Somebody shakes us because it disrupts that rhythmic stabilization that we would have gotten from when we're actually asleep. So I would say too, for anybody that feels like they're tired all the time, or that they find themselves constantly sleeping, you may need to have some hermit mode time and retreat and get some time by yourself, so that you can get back in tune with what your equilibrium is.
But I want to, when you were talking, Jerica, made me think about this thing my father used to always say to me, or to, you know, it was like one of his sayings was, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say anything at all. And yes, on one end, like, what you say could hurt like saying something that's not nice could hurt somebody else. But also we have to remember that everything has a equal reaction. So if you're putting out negativity, you're not only hurting that person, but that it's gonna come back to you in some way. So.
Yep. Yep. And that comes with maturity. You know, like I said, after that Saturn return, and Saturn is connected. Me and Blair was talking about this the other day.
Sagittarius,
Saturn
right?
is connected to Chronos, and Chronos meaning time. So when we think about it, you know, after your Saturn return, after you've had your review with Saturn to discuss how much you've grown up, we know that when we're talking, there's a time to say everything. You know what I'm saying? There may be a truth to what that person needs to hear, but it may not be the right time or the right environment or the right space for you to actually do it. So because I know for some people, it's like, no, like I really need to say this. This person needs to know. They probably do, but is it the right time?
Yeah.
Is it the right time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Blair.
I was just gonna say, I definitely think that comes with the maturity, just feeling out situations better and just having a knack for timing in general. So I think it's even with some of the stuff that we discuss, like it's deeper combos that I know Jerick and I have talked about, but like we want to have with our family, but it's almost like you can't open up certain jars and it's just like, all right, we'll let you deal with that in your own time. Like everybody kind of has their own journey. Maybe this is not when they're supposed to know about this or whatever the case may be. So I definitely agree. And I think that just comes with, again, like I said, maturity, but also becoming a better communicator and figuring out, it's not about like necessarily not stepping on toes or whatever, but it's just, again, moving intentionally, but also just being cognizant of the situation, timing, environment, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. How do people get to a place of peace when they are in a situation like that, where it's a loved one who is, I could give you everything, but I know you wouldn't be able to handle it. And I feel like how does someone feel okay with that? Or how have you found peace with that?
I think it's more.
Go ahead, Blair.
Oh, I was just gonna say, for me, it's not even the point of saying anything at this point. I just have to live my truth and be the example in a lot of situations. So I move in what I know to be true. And especially in a situation, let's say with, I always go to the body, that's my thing. But like, let's say with simple stuff, for me, I call it simple, but like, if you're having chronic pain in a certain area of the body, your body's trying to tell you something. So in my mind, on a logical level, it means you probably need to tweak something so that you can stop that pain if you really want to change it. So like, I'm not gonna highlight which parent, but I have a parent and they'll have this chronic pain. I'm like, make this tweak. Don't want to do it. So it just comes to the point to where I'm like, all right, I'm pain free, I'm moving, I'm flexible. I have a practice. So again, I just have to live in my truth, continue to do my practices and show what I'm doing is working and let that kind of do the talking for it. So
yeah, that's enough. Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I just have to meet people. I've learned to meet people where they are.
Where they are, yeah.
Because whereas you might be ready, you may have all the knowledge and everything, they may not be there yet. I'm familiar with the parent Blair is talking about. And I think the cognitive dissonance is the fact that we've done the work to see that there is a cause and effect to the pain. Whereas to an unconscious person, it's just a part of getting old. So it's like, it's a part of the story that we've been telling ourselves, is that once you get past a certain age, expect to look bad, expect wrinkles, expect to start hunching over. Like, we've been told this story about our healthcare and our government systems, that when you get to a certain age, this is about where you should be. And yeah, you're right, considering the diet that y'all been giving us. But those that have stepped outside of that matrix understand that it doesn't have to be that way. So we understand that when we see pain, there is a cause, there's a root cause to it, and we have the power to go in there and change it. But for the unconscious person, they're right on track with going straight to the grave, the way that they've been taught for it to happen. And so I think you're right. We just have to live and be the example. And then if the time ever comes, or when the time is right, I think that the universe provides those opportunities very naturally, and you can walk right into it. And then the person will be receptive of what you're saying. But we all are here. We've been all incarnated for different reasons. We all have our own free will, and we don't know what the other person's journey and story is supposed to be. So you just become to be at peace with it. Right. It's okay.
that's what I said. Just living in your truth, like that's the piece. Like when you're good with self, everything else just kind of vanishes. And then you're able to pour into others as needed. But I think again, we talk about it every episode too. But again, it starts with self, and yeah.
Have we actually talked about the throat chakra also representing how we speak to ourselves? I know we've talked about externally.
Jerica actually just kind of mentioned that, and I was going to bring that up too. But the story that we tell ourselves and how we see ourselves, I think that's definitely a big factor in what's going on now, for sure. Like if your thoughts are really creating your reality, and we're seeing or constantly comparing different things on social media, how are you really getting down to what your true essence and your true truth is without some of this time in isolation or silence? So I definitely think that's a key factor. Us getting clarity on what we want our life to look like, and altering that version or that story that we're telling ourselves on a daily basis.
That's why affirmations are so important.
They are. We really have to, going back to the abracadabra thing, we have to realize that through our speech and our actions, we really are creating, and it's like creativity is the gateway between the past and the future. So when we create, we know it's a present thing, it's in the now. And so everything that we're doing, we're creating. And it's like, is it coming from an unconscious level, lower chakra? And then you're so blocked that you're not getting the inspiration and the wisdom to meet those needs, and then to be able to express it, to manifest what you want. But we often say, how did I get here? How did my life get here? And we think it's happening to us, not realizing that it's kind of 50-50. There's 50% that is you and your free will, but because we are in contact and within each other's auric fields, then the other 50% is the impact of others onto your experience at the same time.
So this is totally random, but while you were speaking, I was thinking about Sonic the Hedgehog, who is blue, and he's like, his thing is being fast, and it was making me think about, like you said, when you're at that fast vibration, you're in alignment. I don't know if that was relevant, but it just came to mind.
Right. And his sidekick Tails was orange, so sacral and throat.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like I did see something on that the other day.
Yeah, we gotta have it. But it does make more sense, like as far as how we understanding how it seems like sometimes in life things happen, we don't understand why it manifested a certain way, and then other times we get these really cool results when we intentionally put our focus towards something. And I think that can speak to the connection between sacral and the throat chakra too, because we do create a lot of things unconsciously. We say we want certain things, we want to do certain things. And then when time, going back to Saturn, when time catches up with the thoughts and the vibration and the energy that we put out there, then we have this manifestation. So it's like, for example, so when I was going through my non-awakened state of life, I used to have really, really bad like self-esteem issues. I had a big problem with being brown skinned because my mother is more fair skinned. And so I used to get picked on a little bit. So like my prayer, and it wasn't even like an intentional sit down, think about it prayer, but I used to say to myself all the time, like, I gotta have light-skinned kids. I gotta have light-skinned kids because I don't want them to experience the bullying that I felt like I was experiencing. Right. Okay, so then fast forward, once I actually like was married and was talking about having kids, I had my daughter, she came out light-skinned. So by the time I got pregnant again, I'm like, I need me a chocolate baby. I need a baby that's gonna look and reflect like me. So then 11 months later, I had my son, and he was light skinned too. And I had to think about, well, how much more time was spent on me telling myself how I had to have light-skinned kids, coming from a place that was from a wound, is where that prayer was coming from. But then I hadn't been in my conscious awakened self long enough to counteract the prayer that I had been praying for so long. So I want people to consider, when you feel like you have changed your mind about something, or you're going in a new direction in your life and you don't see it manifesting yet, consider how much more time you spent in the opposite mindset, because time has to catch up with what you're putting out there. You know what I'm saying? So if I've been praying for light-skinned kids, the timing of that is going to depend upon when I decide to have kids. You see what I'm saying? So whatever it is that you're praying about, consider the opportunities and how you're actively either going to support the manifestation of it or not support the manifestation of it. So when we think life is just happening to us, we have to be able to go back and think about the unconscious times where we were praying and wishing and wanting certain things, and the universe said yes. And so as soon as the opportunity came, you got your initial request granted, not the request that came after that. You know what I'm saying? So I had to put that out there, because when I first started understanding like manifesting, Abraham Hicks, that kind of stuff, I found myself very frustrated, feeling like sometimes I would have these breakthroughs and see stuff, but then other times I wouldn't. And I realized that there was a deep rooted mindset and prayer and things that I was putting out there that was way stronger than what my new mindset was.
I really do feel like we put ourselves in the predicaments and situations that, you know, we probably told ourselves over years. And I mean, I think that even now, we had a conversation this morning, just basically trying to dig deep into past traumas that we had, or even miscommunication points that we had with each other. And we were really trying to figure out what is the disconnect. We literally was sitting there like, dang, like, why can't I connect with you, girl? No, but but basically, like, we literally had that moment of time to really just sit and just, you know, look each other in the face and really just like, hey, what do we need to do to kind of, you know, like peel back these layers, maybe the things that we don't even see that exist. But I just remembered that, like, when we think about, like, and it doesn't have to be on a relationship, it can be a job, it can be anything. But when you put yourself in a situation like, man, I just need a job. I need a job. I need this. If I have this job, I swear everything's going to be good. Everything's going to get better, blah, blah, blah. Then you get the job. The job is high paying, like you said you wanted. It got medical benefits, like you said you wanted. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. Then you get to the job and they hand you the paper of responsibilities that you need to do. And then you're just like, damn, I didn't remember manifesting that part. You know what I mean? So now when it's like, okay, here's your prerequisites prior to you getting paid or prior to you getting your rewards. Like, you got to do these things. These are your, you know, I guess your quote unquote responsibilities. And then going through that process, you're like, dang, I don't want this, you know, because it's just, this job, man, like they told me that I can take off at any holiday. They keep pushing back my Easters, whatever it is, you know. And sometimes we really just have to go back to that time where we was literally like, I need this job, I needed this position, or I needed to work on myself, or whatever that thing was, and keep that in mind. Because the moment that you tell yourself this job is like too much, the universe is like, okay, got it, boom. And then it's sending something out there, and you have to now fight with the universe to kind of like make this, you know, environment you know, a little bit better for you.
Mhm.
And sometimes it don't work out. So being in that mindfulness is 100%. And then even for us, when we came to this this period of insight, I guess, where, you know, the energy that you have before you learned about things and after you learned about things, like it's still there. So for me, let's just say if I made a mistake on something, you know, before I thought I was right, I was in the right or whatever. But after, if I know, okay, I was in the wrong or whatever it is, all it is just turning up my energy just a nudge. And that's it. It's not like I have to destroy this whole part of myself, you know, and then try to recreate a brand new version of myself. No, I love all aspects of myself. That's what you signed up for, basically.
Right.
So for me, it's more of for everyone who is going through anything like, you know, I got a major change in my life, like I got to move from this place to this place. Maybe it's like disputes with family, whether it's disputes with friends, whether it's your boss, whoever. The moment of clarity is when you realize that everything starts with you. That same energy you put into your boss, it's probably the same energy that you're putting in with your spouse or putting in even into you preparing your food. Now you don't even really care how you make your food. It's all messy and everything. You probably go get fast food just so you can kind of like deal with these situations. So just be more mindful on just how you are going about talking to yourself about the universe or about your environment, because you do still have the power to switch that up.
And I would say one thing I do on manifesting to be extra careful is I often don't think about or say exactly what I want. I think about how I feel and having in it. And that's what I focus on when I'm manifesting. It's like, I'm going to feel, I want to feel this way. And versus saying it has to look like this and this is the circumstance, because, the universe has a way bigger thing than you can even imagine. So you'll be limiting yourself trying to put what you want into words versus saying how it make you feel.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that when you mentioned affirmations, but like feeling the affirmation as opposed to just saying something that, like if you don't have any money and you're like, I'm a millionaire, just over and over, like it could be far-fetched to your logical mind. So that could be overriding the affirmation, making it kind of pointless. So just on a deeper level, like feeling rich, like feeling wealthy, feeling abundant, feeling prosperous, feeling successful, that sort of thing. But we talked about it last week, but in the heart, that being the meeting place for both sets, the upper and lower sets of chakras. So putting that feeling in your heart and projecting that out.
Just had a moment of insight while Blair was speaking that, because you said, Jerica, you said the throat chakra is related to the sacral chakra, right? It was like more of a, and when we think about creation, right? Sacral and through the word. So I think about that is what sex is. It's joining both of these chakras of, the mouth and the pelvic region. It's creating that cycle between the throat and the sacral through truth, through love, creation, through,
And that definitely creates the vortex between both entities. So yeah, you onto something with that one. That's definitely.
Oh my gosh,
that's a good
my
download.
mind went all the way in the gutter, but I agree.
For sure.
I'm like, oh yeah, the mouth. Okay, yeah.
Either way,
Yeah. But on that note, I guess we can go straight to what we can do to get some stones and everything else. So Jerica, if you don't mind giving us some
Of course.
good recommendations.
I got 4 stones today. We'll start with blue lace agate. Blue lace agate will help a person to communicate their deepest truth and it supports the thyroid, which is the gland connected to this chakra, and it helps to support clarity so that you can be clear on the things that you want, and your truths, be clear on what your truths are. Aquamarine is very cooling, and I picked this one because sometimes we can get very frustrated or have pent up frustration when we're trying to express ourselves. So this is going to help you to cool it down a little bit, so that you're not so frustrated in communicating or expressing yourself. Blue calcite. This is a pretty big piece.
Yeah.
Blue calcite inspires self-expression, and it helps you to tap into what it is that you're inspired by and what you want to express from a conscious level, which again is the difference between a sacral expression being unconscious and the throat expression being conscious. So blue calcite will help with that. And the last one is amazonite. And amazonite kind of, a lot of people consider it to be really feminine, but that's just because like the Amazon woman, amazonite kind of thing. I would say that it is a stone that holds you to your truth and speaking your truth, without being overly emotional about it. So it allows you to speak that truth firmly and confidently without somebody trying to tell you, oh, you're just wearing your heart on your sleeves or something like that. It gives a little bit of a groundedness and seriousness to being able to communicate effectively. So those are the crystal recommendations.
I have a question. Can you see which one this one is, Jerica? It's like very flaky.
Oh, kyanite, blue kyanite.
Yes. Yeah, I got this one to help with my dissertation, writing my dissertation.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. I think from a learning standpoint, blue kyanite is really good. I was actually going to use this one for the sixth chakra too, because it helps you to tap into your intuition a lot too. But for learning, if you're doing any communicating with learning, I also would recommend fluorite. And it can be any fluorite. This particular one is rainbow fluorite, so it's got the greens, purples, and blues. And sodalite. Sodalite is really good for if you have to cram in study sessions. If you're writing, definitely pay attention to that. And I think too, sapphire is good. I know a lot of people know what sapphire looks like from a jewel standpoint, but if you've never seen it before it's polished, it's actually rather dark. And two, from an astrological standpoint, look at Mercury. Look where Mercury is in your chart, because Mercury represents how we communicate and how we think, and is a huge part of how we express ourselves. And so you want to look to the sign in your natal chart that Mercury is in, because the sign is going to explain your style of how you do that. So for me, I have Mercury in Aquarius in the 5th house. So a lot of how I communicate being 5th house is going to be very artistic. It's going to be in a very fun way. But because Aquarius is on that house, it's going to have some groundedness to it because it's ruled by Saturn, but it's going to be very innovative. So the way that I communicate the things that I believe in, the way that I think is going to be outside of the box, is going to be a little bit more unconventional in some ways. So check out Mercury, see where it is in your natal chart, check the sign and the house that it's on. The sign is going to tell you your style, the flavor, and then the house is going to show you what areas in your life that it expresses itself the most.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, anybody got some foods?
Well, I was gonna give a tip, like a mental. Oh, go ahead, Blair. A mental health tip for exercising the throat chakra is go to therapy. Like that person is paid to sit there and let you talk, and then they'll give you feedback on how you're talking, like objective feedback. So you'll know if you're not speaking enough, not sharing enough, or if you're expressing too much. So it's a great place where just you can talk if you're not exercising that. But yeah, that's it.
Dope. Foods. You got blueberries, dragon fruit, barley, wheatgrass, mushrooms, All of those pretty good for the chakras, or throat chakra rather.
And I know
Yes, blueberries.
the
Ashwagandha too.
the foods to avoid is dairy or anything mucus building. That's going to slow down that vibration.
That's a given. That should be a given, period. Yeah, no more dairy. We in 2022, no dairy.
Yeah, no
Let's
dairy
start a campaign
or
on that.
forming foods. Yeah. I'm sure mint is probably good for the throat chakra.
I know, because you're talking, gotta make sure the breath aligns.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But hey, what about any last tips or anything before we wrap up the segment?
I do want to point out that the demon of this chakra is lying, because that is, of course, is opposite to being in your truth and being truthful. So you want to look at places in your life where you're either doing that or are you embodying it? You know, like, are you, when you're in public, are you afraid to get excited about something because you feel like you're going to be judged? That's lying with your body. You're constricting all that energy. Or, you know, you get excited and your parent says, oh, you're too loud, be quiet. We're getting into graduation season. And when you're sitting there, the first thing that the principal or the dean says is to hold your applause and sit down, don't stand up. So you have all these people like holding in this energy that they're unable to express. You're lying to yourself about how you feel about things. So also the deficiency or the excess when it comes to this chakra, you know you're deficient if you find that it's hard for you to communicate, you choke throat on your words. You are a little bit shy and timid, fear of speaking, fear of expressing, not understanding, not being able to get the thoughts that are in your head out of your mouth. And then on the excess level, you can be overpowering. Are you dominating the conversations? Are you not good at listening? Or are you gossiping? Those are ways too for you to know when you're on the excess side.
Ooh, thank you for sharing those.
You know what? I actually heard the idea of somebody saying like, to help with your expression through singing, that you can create a playlist. And so like, if you're in a mood, have the first song try to represent the best way of like how you're feeling in that moment. So if you're feeling sad or melancholy, you know, pick a song that's going to help you express that. And then as you add songs to the playlist, try to gradually get it to come out of that mood, and then let it end with like a happy, you know, affirmative, uplifting song.
Man,
I love that.
I was going to say that's how I construct my playlist, because my playlist, I actually made, I made you a playlist, didn't I?
Oh.
You don't remember? All right. So,
hey, women don't be appreciating our time.
Man.
Hey, we cutting y'all off. We cutting y'all off from making no more playlists.
You know what I mean? But
I appreciated it, I'm sure.
So, anyways, but I did that, but more on a subconscious level, because I like to feel through the playlist first and see what it's saying to me. So, I mean, I'm talking about back in the day when you burning CDs on LimeWire, and you know,
facts.
I miss LimeWire.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Stuff like that, and then you know,
one wrong song.
I used to have it go to Costco's, get a thing like this, the CDs, be like, look, I'll give you playlist 10 songs for $5 or whatever it is.
Okay.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, because even depending on who I was giving it to is how I matched up that energy with that. So if I felt like there was a person who was more root chakra dominant, or someone who was very eccentric in nature or something like that, then my music would be completely different than someone who's a little bit more somber, or somebody who is just a little bit more like, I just want to be at the desk and draw and sketch all day. So that was more of like a lo-fi type of mentality. So yeah.
Any comments? Y'all got any questions? on YouTube, drop it in the comment section below. Feel free to email us. Find us at the Parallel Paths Podcast. You can also reach us at 3layersofwellness.com. But until next time, peace.
Peace.